What is up, boys and girls? It is Jerry. I am cruising a boot, and I thought I would stop in and do a quick little first impressions review for ya. It's been a while. I'm wearing sunglasses. It's very impersonal, but it's bright out. It's been a while. I haven't seen a movie in a while. I have been very busy. It's a busy time of year. It's been just there's lots of stuff to do, lots of work and things. But I did manage to squeeze in a trip this week to the cinema. I caught the Beyond Fest screening of Starry, which is a new independent, I guess you'd call it horror film, body horror film. And they played this in a double feature with a film called Possession. I didn't get to stay for Possession. I have seen that film before. But Starry I'd heard a lot about. It's doing the rounds on the festival circuit, and I was excited to see it. So how was it? Let's talk about this. To borrow a colloquialism from the kids, I'm just gonna cut right to the chase here. This movie kind of fucked my shit up, as they say, as they are known to have said. Yeah, this movie is pretty crazy. This movie is a low budget, it's an independent film. I believe at least some of their funding came from Kickstarter and stuff like that. And you know, it's a little rough around the edges in places, but basically about this young woman who's trying to make it as an actress in LA. You know, it's early on in her career. She's still very green and very self-conscious and whatnot, and sort of follows her journey, you know, trying to live the dream, as they say. So she lives with, you know, a friend of hers, and they have their little actory circle that they hang out with. There's some faces you'll recognize in there, like Amanda Fuller and Noah Segan, sort of in her little friend group there. Pat Healy is her boss at the shop she works at. And this movie sort of follows the evolution of this young woman as she finally does get something of a break, and all the things that happen to her after that. And I apologize for being vague, but part of the fun of this movie, for me anyway, was going in with very little idea of what was happening, and you know, sort of feasting my eyes on it as it was happening. It doesn't start out as you know, like a traditional horror movie, but slowly but surely, as things, you know, begin to spiral out of control and sort of devolve, it becomes rather upsetting and jarring. This very sort of strange, sort of oblique body horror thing. And it's really cool. This movie starts out kind of scrappy and plucky, much like the main character does, and then once it really finds its footing and gets confident, you know, it really packs a lot of punches. This movie isn't like a lot of things we get nowadays. It's not like a lot of things you've seen lately, but it's well put together. I mean, it's low budget. You can tell just from the look and feel of things that it is a little bit of low budget. There are a lot of local locations, but it really isn't confined or restricted by that stuff, which is great. This movie is also not the kind of thing that you have to be like a Hollywood insider to understand. It's pretty accessible from any level. And the performances are really good for the most part. Alexandra Esso plays the lead, and she's fantastic. I mean, first and foremost, you know, this movie rests on her a lot. She has to carry a lot of this film, and she really does sell it. And that's, I mean, a lot of times, there are a lot of really good, you know, independent scripts out there. There are a lot of really cool ideas and whatnot, but sometimes you really need an actor or an actress who can sell, you know, certain things happening to really make a movie work. And this movie greatly benefits not only from her performance, but very much so from her performance, because she is really natural, very real, and even in the crazy moments, she really commands the role, and she really carries this movie in a lot of ways. And the rest of the cast is good too. Even the characters we don't get to know so well, you know, everyone turns in a good performance. And there's some faces you'll recognize. Amanda Fuller is in this, Noah Segan is in this, Pat Healy and Mark Center, and you know, a few other faces you might recognize, and most of the supporting cast does get a chance to shine. Even characters who sort of don't show up a whole lot, or are given, you know, sort of one note to play, get a chance to broaden that over the course of the film. And the performances are all really good for the most part. Also, the effects, there are a lot of effects, and I'm not going to get into necessarily what type of effect, but there are a lot of effects in this movie, practical stuff and things like that, and they look great, especially, again, for the scale and the budget of the movie. These look better and more convincing than some of the stuff you've seen lately in you know, big budget, you know, Hollywood movies. So hats off to them for this. I mean, this movie really is kind of harrowing. Like I said, it fucked my shit up for a while. Like it's a jarring, creepy experience, and it gets under your skin. And it's well put together. You know, this arc that this young woman goes through is twisted and really well achieved by this film. You know, it's still a little bit rough around the edges in some of the formic elements, but you know, once it really hits its stride, you know, a quarter or a third of the way through the movie, you know, it really gets going. Not to say that the first part of the movie doesn't have a stride, but you know, things pick up a pace at a certain point, and it gets to a momentum once she gets to a certain point in her tale, in her career. It also serves this movie well that they do give you a good amount of time to get to know the main character, especially to get to, you know, understand her and to sort of identify with her and sympathize with her before it gets to all the crazy stuff. You know, which is invaluable in any horror movie, but especially one like this where the horror and, you know, what's so affecting and creepy and you know, all the things that get under your skin are so deeply tied into this character and her experience. You know, they do a really good job at letting you get to know her first. And there are a lot of elements to the horror in this movie. I mean, when the horror kicks in, you do get, you know, the sort of makeup effects stuff and certain gore effects and things like that later on in the movie. But even early on, it does this cool sort of psychological horror just with, you know, the experiences she's having with people, you know, and her own anxieties and social anxieties coming out, and they do a really cool job of capturing those events and incidents in a really creepy and jarring way. So it's not necessarily gory horror all the time. There is that, most definitely, but there is also a lot of really cool sort of semi-abstract, you know, figurative horror in there too, you know, where moments get really stressful for her, and then the form of the film accentuates that, and that's really cool about this movie. Like I said, there's definitely some body horror stuff, there's some, like, icky, diseasey makeup almost, there's definitely blood and whatnot, but the cool thing about the horror in this movie is that some of it is visceral, and then some of it just gets under your skin and is creepy and gross. Some of it's just, you know, weird to look at. You know, there's a lot of different elements that make this movie freaky, but it is certainly a horror movie once it gets down to brass tacks, as they say. So, yeah, definitely check this movie out if you get a chance, man. Especially if you're into horror movies, if you're into indie stuff, low-budget stuff, you know, you want to see something neat and original, please go check out Starry Eyes. I don't know if and when it's getting distribution on a wider level. I hope it does. But if it goes to VOD or whatever, definitely check it out, because there's some twisted stuff in here, some really good effects, some good performances, you know, some good writing and directing. And I'm interested to see what the two guys who wrote and directed this will come up with next. So, yeah, Starry Eyes, twisted flick, really cool. Definitely check it out. And you know, it's October's coming up. I know we've already sort of talked about what horror movies you guys are into, but what's your favorite body horror movie? Let's say let's talk about that, because that's kind of an interesting subgenre you don't see a ton of these days. So yeah, until next time, guys. I am Jerry. The movie is Starry Eyes. Cheers.